People ask me, how do you do it? How do you get yourself out of bed in the morning? Every morning. And just get out there. When it's hard, when it's hopeless, when it seems all odds are against you. Where do you get that strength to never give up? And I say, I have no choice. I have to. We have to.
Because if I...
And I.
And I.
And I.
And I.
And I.
وأنا.
Who lost a sister.
A brother.
And uncle.
Who lost his father.
أختي.
A brother.
Two sons.
Who lost a father to the
Who
conflict.
lost a sister to the conflict.
Can walk the path of peace.
تستطيع أن تمشي في طريق السلام. יכולה ללכת בדרך השלום.
Then surely you can too.
Bereaved Israelis and Palestinians refuse to give up. Take a step with us on the path of peace. To find out more, search Taking Steps.
Wow. Good evening. As you see, we are bereaved Israeli and Palestinian families, and we refuse to give up because it's not a job. It's not a job to be bereaved families or bereaved fathers. We are peace activists. We are not victims, and we refuse to live as victims. My name is Bassam Aramin. I am proud to call this ex-enemy, this man, is my brother. Because we are fighting together, we are struggling together to release the Palestinians from the occupation and to release the Israelis from their own occupation, to be oppressors. I spent 7 years in the Israeli jails when I was 17 years old. It's very difficult to grow up under strange occupation, people that you don't understand their language, and you don't understand why they occupied you. We learned that we need to defend our country and our freedom. We start by raising the Palestinian flag as a tool of struggle against those strangers, which was a crime in that time. I was part of a local military group, 13 years old kids, which our mission was to raise the Palestinian flag. We threw 2 hand grenades against Israeli patrols in our village near Hebron. No one killed, no one injured, because we don't know how to use it in a professional way. At the age of 17, we have been arrested, and I spent 7 years in the Israeli jails. I learned that if you know your enemy, you can defeat him or you can kill him. If you only hate him, you will kill yourself. So I started to study Hebrew to know how to defeat my enemy. I watched a movie about the Holocaust in jail. In general, as Palestinians, I believe Arabs, we deny the Holocaust because we don't know anything about it. We consider it a big lie. So I want to enjoy seeing this movie as kind of revenge, to see someone torture those Jewish, kill them, at least because I'm in their jail. And after a few minutes, I found myself crying, get sympathy with those innocent people. I discovered this crime against humanity. It takes a long time to understand that the Holocaust was a fact. It's not a big lie. In 2011, I finished my master's degree about the Holocaust to understand more about this fact. Unfortunately, I find that as Palestinians, we became victim of the victim. And in my dissertation, I wrote, unfortunately, the Palestinians became the Jewish of the Middle East, or the Jewish of the world, And I pray that the Palestinians will never find their own Palestinians. We need to stop this circle of victims and victimize others. I started to be peace activist in 1994 after Oslo agreements. It gives us power that through negotiation we can achieve peace. It's not a hobby or a job to fight and to kill. It's a tool. And that time we have an Oslo agreement, we have kind of peace, so we need to change our way to achieve our goal. If negotiation works, it's better than to fight and to kill each other. In 2005, I was among the co-founders of Combatants for Peace, which is Israeli-Palestinian organization from Israeli ex-soldiers or officers who refused to serve in the occupied territories. They discovered that they didn't serve the Israeli security. They just create more hatred in the and enemies in the Palestinian side. As Palestinians, freedom fighters, we understand that this conflict cannot be solved in a military solution. So we join our forces and we decide to lay down our weapons and we start to talk. Our slogan was what Nelson Mandela says: if you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy. Then he became your partner. It's not only to talk to your enemy, you need to work. And we start to work against our common enemy, Israelis and Palestinians, which is the Israeli occupation, which is the source of hatred and violence and whatever. The first year we became 300 members from both sides. Today we are more than 700 members. If you live in Palestine and Israel, unfortunately you have no safe place for yourself. It's not in the same level in Israel like Palestine, but still, if you survive, it's by chance. Every day you need to say, Alhamdulillah, that I survive, which is not a normal situation. It's very painful that you cannot protect yourself and you cannot protect your kids. In the 16th of January 2007, 2 years after Combatants for Peace, an Israeli border police shoot and kill my 10-year-old daughter, Abir, in her head from the back from a distance of 15 to 20 meters. It's very difficult, but in that time, even I hope that Abir will be the last victim between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. It's very easy to go to the easy way, revenge. It's very difficult to go to the other way, to try to build more bridge between people. And this is what happened. Always I said, one Israeli soldier shoot and kill my daughter, but more than 100 ex-Israeli soldiers and officers from Combatants for Peace and from the parents' circle come to build Abir's garden, in her school, in her place, in her memory. This is how we can use our pain. For most of the people who are disappointed, they don't believe that we will have solution in the Middle East, always I said, the Palestinians didn't kill 6 million Israelis. And the Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians. And there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv. And there is an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. Israelis and Palestinians, also we can do it. In the parent circle, we just want to spread a very simple message. Israelis and Palestinians, we have no other place. We have the right to exist. And we must exist together to share this holy land as one state, 2 states, 5 states. Otherwise, we will share the same land as 2 big graves to our kids and our people. The Israelis will never give up their safe place, and we will never give up our freedom. So we want to prove that Israelis and Palestinians, ex-enemies, we can do it. Peace is possible. Reconciliation is possible. Thank you very much. Thank you, brother.
This Palestinian terrorist is my dear brother, Bassam Aramin. In many ways, he's the closest person to me on earth. He's much closer to me than many of my own people, many of my own family. And what makes us so close is this price that we both have paid as an outcome of this ongoing conflict between our two nations. For me, he's a leader, a light in the dark. I take a lot of strength out of him, out of his family, and my other brothers and sisters, Palestinians, members of this unique organization of ours. My name is Rami Elhanan. I'm a 66 years old graphic designer living in Jerusalem, 7th generation. I am a Jew. I am an Israeli. And before anything else, I am a human being. 42 years ago, I was a very young soldier fighting this horrible October 73 war. We have started it with a company of 11 tanks. We finished it with only 3. I've lost over there in the desert of Sinai some of my very close friends, and I came out of it a very angry and bitter and disappointed young man, with one determination: to detach myself from any kind of involvement or commitment. 32 years ago, my daughter was born in Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. Her name was Smadar. It's taken from the Bible, the Song of Solomon. It means the grape of vine. She was an extremely beautiful, amazing, vivid, sparkling little girl. Everybody used to call her the princess. And we lived a very good life in our house in Jerusalem. My wife, which is a professor for education in the Hebrew University, my 3 boys, and this princess, in what seemed to be the perfect and sheltered atmosphere. On the 4th of September 1997, the bubble that we were living in was blown up by 2 Palestinian suicide bombers who blew themselves up in Ben Yehuda Street in the center of Jerusalem, killing 5 people that day, including 3 little girls. One of these girls was my 14-year-old Smadar. It was Thursday afternoon, and the beginning of a very long night, which continues until today. At first, when you hear about the explosion, you keep hoping that maybe this time this finger will not turn towards you. Then you find yourself running in the streets trying to find her. You go from hospital to hospital, from police station to police station, many long and frustrating hours, until eventually, very, very later that night, you find yourself in the morgue. This finger is stuck right between your eyes, and you see this sight, which you will never, ever be able to forget for the rest of your life. Then you come back home. The house is filled with thousands of people coming to pay respect. These are the 7 days of the Jewish mourning period. It's called Shiva. And you're kind of enveloped by these thousands of people. But on the 8th day, everybody goes back to their normal, everyday businesses. You are left alone. You need to wake up. You need to stand up and face yourself. And you have to make a decision. What are you going to do now with this new, unbearable burden on your shoulders? What are you going to do with this anger that eats you alive from within? There are only 2 options to choose from. The first one is obvious. When someone kills your 14-year-old little girl, you are so angry and you want to get even, which is natural, which is human, which is the way most people choose, the way of revenge and retaliation, which creates this endless cycle of violence which never stops. But then after a while, you start to think, we are human beings. We have heads on our shoulders. We can use it. You ask yourself, will killing anyone will bring her back? Will causing pain to someone will ease in any way this unbearable pain? Well, the answer is certainly not. So in a very graduate and complicated process, you come to the other option, which is much more difficult, trying to understand what happened here. Why did it happen? How could such a horrible thing take place? What can cause someone to be that angry, that mad, that he's willing to blow himself up with 14 years old little girl? And then the most important question of them all, what can you do personally in order to prevent this unbearable pain from other people? It's not easy, it takes time. Foolishly enough, at the beginning, I thought that I could go back to my life, but nothing was normal anymore. I was not the same person anymore. About a year later, I met a big man who changed my life. His name was Yitzhak Frankenthal. He was a religious Jew, with a kippah on his head. And you know how we tend to put people into drawers and stigmatize people, and we judge people by the way they look and dress. And I was certain that this guy was a right-winger, a fascist, that he eats Arabs for breakfast. And I prepared myself to fight him. And then we started talking. He told me about his son, Arik, a soldier who was kidnapped and murdered by Hamas in 1994, and about this organization that he created of people who lost their loved ones and still wanted peace and searched for peace and fought for peace. And I remembered that this guy, Yitzhak Frankenthal, was one of these thousands of people that came to my house during those 7 days or morning a year ago, and I went crazy. I was so angry with him. I asked him, how could you step into someone who just lost a loved one and talk about peace? How dare you? And he, being the great man that he is, was not insulted. He just invited me over to watch a meeting of this group of crazy people. And I got a little bit curious. I said, okay. I went to see. It was 17 years ago. I was standing aside, very detached and reluctant, watching those people coming down from the buses. And from the buses came down people that, for me, as an Israeli patriot, were always living legends, people that I used to look up to them and admire them, people who lost their loved ones and still wanted peace and searched for peace. But then I saw something else. Then I saw something which was completely new to me, to my eyes, my mind, my soul. I was standing there watching the Palestinian bereaved families coming down from the buses, walking towards me, shaking my hand for peace, hugging me, crying with me, and I was completely shocked. You see, I was 47 years old at the time, and until today I am ashamed to admit it was the first time ever in my life I've met Palestinians as human beings. Not as workers in the streets, not as terrorists, not as transparent people, as human beings, people who carry the same burden that I carry, people who suffer exactly like I suffer. And I was so deeply moved. I remember seeing this old Arab lady coming down from the bus with this long black Palestinian dress, and she had a picture of a 6-year-old kid on her chest, exactly like my wife carried the name of our daughter, Smadar, on hers. I'm not a religious person. I have no way of explaining what happened to me back then, 17 years ago. All I can tell you is that from that moment on until today, I devote my life to go everywhere possible, to talk to anyone possible, people who want to listen, people who will not listen, to convey this very basic and very simple message which says we are not doomed. This is not our destiny to keep on killing each other in this holy land of ours forever. We can change it. We can break once and for all the endless cycle of violence and revenge. The only way to do it is simply by talking to each other, because it will not stop unless we talk. We go from high school to high school. We speak in Israeli and Palestinian high schools. We talk to those kids. And we tell them that our blood is exactly the same color, that our pain is exactly the same pain, and that our tears are exactly the same bitterness. And if we who pay the highest price possible, if we can talk to each other, then anyone can and anyone should. I would like to add one thing. 9 years ago, I was standing by the dying bed of Rami Elhanan, not knowing what to put myself, losing all kinds of hope. At that moment, 9 years ago, there was a treaty of blood between me and my brother, Bassam, and we will make peace, no two ways about it. Now, we are not representatives, not of Palestine and not of Israel. I can tell you, but that in Israel and in Palestine, there are thousands and thousands of people who think like us, who work like us, who devote their life exactly like we do. Some of these Israelis are here today. I hope that some of the Palestinians will be here someday. And I really want to ask you in the end, do not be pro-Israel, do not be pro-Palestine. Be pro-peace, be against injustice, and against this ongoing situation in which one people is dominating another. Thank you very much. Bassam, if you want to add anything.